Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, the abortion battle has raged from state to state. In November, 5 states will allow their voters to decide the issue.
Statewide referendums vary widely, and advocates are watching the outcomes closely. Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka reports.
Abortion is on the ballot in November. It's the battle cry we've heard from both sides for different reasons as we head into the midterm elections. The issue is expected to drive voter turnout, but in some states, voters will have a direct hand in deciding how much access or how little they'd have to the procedure where they live. In addition to candidates, 5 states, California, Montana, Michigan, Vermont, and Kentucky, will have different abortion proposals on their midterm ballots. Voters in California, Michigan, and Vermont will decide on whether to have the right to an abortion added to their state constitutions. Kelly Lester with And Then There Were None Ministries says her biggest concern is how regulated or unregulated the procedure might become in some of the states.
By removing any restrictions, what is what they want to do in Michigan, it's also what they want to do in California, along with some other things, it basically makes it a free-for-all. And so there will be no inspections of abortion facilities. There will be no mandates on what level of care the women are getting at these locations. And so it really is a very, very dangerous thing.
If approved, the Kentucky amendment would stop the state from, quote, securing or protecting the right to abortion or require funding of an abortion. And in Montana, the Born Alive referendum would provide legal rights to infants, including those born alive after an abortion. It could put doctors on the hook for felony charges.
We refuse to accept a future.
Following the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade, the country saw how abortion could be a political weapon in the midterm election cycle. In August, Kansas voters rejected a proposed amendment that would have limited abortion access in the deeply red state. The Human Coalition's Chelsea Yeoman doesn't believe that result is a sign of things to come.
Kansas was a really unique situation where the wording on the ballot was confusing. You had tens of millions of dollars pouring in, Planned Parenthood going door to door. So I don't think that's indicative of American sentiment. I think Americans understand that humans in the womb are alive and that they are human, and overall that some life should be protected.
The outcome could end up being a patchwork of rules nationwide because federal proposals on both sides of the aisle regarding the procedure will likely not have enough votes to pass. It's why some pro-choice Democrats believe the statewide measures are important.
The Democrats are for codifying Roe. We have a bill that's passed the House. It's passed hopefully will pass the Senate. The Republicans, as you know, with Lindsey Graham, want to have a ban, and they're debating how many weeks to have that ban. Let me say this. I mean, my guess is many of your viewers will disagree with my view on abortion. I think it is a fundamental right for women to make that decision with their doctor. We can agree to disagree. And the question in this country is, how can we start having conversations, being true to our ideals and principles, but still finding common ground?
Voter registration data would indicate that Democrats have made some gains, especially with women, since the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. But other polling would indicate that abortion is ranked in the middle of the pack, behind things like inflation, the economy, and crime when it comes to reasons why voters are being driven to the polls. What does that all mean? Well, it means that all eyes will be on results as they start to roll in on Election Day in November. Matt Galka, CBN News.
Well, there's a big election coming up, if you haven't heard about it, and it's going to decide a lot of things. 5 states are going to have a similar referendum to what Kansas has. This is going to turn into messy democracy, and my hope is, following the election, can we actually come together as a people and stop demonizing the other side? I'm hearing again and again, if the other side wins, then our democracy is at stake. It's not. It's not. These are elections. This is what democracies do. We have elections, and the good news is 2 years from now, we're going to have another election. And in that process, we, the people, get to decide the rules that we agree to as a republic to say this is our governing standard. That gets upset when the Supreme Court, which is not a legislature, comes in and makes decisions for all of us that we have no appeal, we can't vote, we're disenfranchised. That's exactly what happened with Roe versus Wade. The Supreme Court made law. It's not in the Constitution. They found some shadow, some penumbra of the Constitution having to do with a right of privacy, and they turned that into legal abortion. Even Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said Roe was wrongly decided. So now we turn to ourselves and say, what do we believe, and how is that going to be reflected in the laws of the land? This is going to get messy, but that's part of democracy.